Welcome to the Awakened Human Podcast, the place to be for highly progressive yet extremely grounded intuitive guidance, energetic support, metaphysical tools, and higher consciousness for highly successful, ambitious, soul-centered visionaries and leaders like you who want to make a global impact and achieve your highest fulfillment by aligning with your soul's true divine agenda and your role in God's plan of lighted creation, and by utilizing your divine gifts, talents, and abilities from the higher realms. We do this by working with the non-physical realms of higher guidance, energy, intuition, and powerful metaphysical tools for healing and transformation. We understand that the real change and transformation that's being called for on planet Earth and in our own lives and our own businesses doesn't come from outside of us, but rather from within. And that the change that we desire to experience in our lives and in our world requires us to change from the inside. I'm your host, Lori Ann Spagna. I'm a best-selling author, spiritual catalyst, intuitive, energy worker, ascension guide, multidimensional channel, animal communicator, visionary, lightworker, and luminary. I have dedicated my entire professional life to helping thousands and thousands of humans and animals all over the world in service and contribution to the light, which is the expansion, the upliftment, the evolution of humanity, to awaken, to uplift, and to align with our true divine source, which exists within each and every one of us. It is my passion, joy, and purpose to share this information, energy, and consciousness with you. Thank you so much for being here today and for sharing time with me. Let's get started. Blessings and greetings, beloveds, beautiful beings. It's Lori here with you today. I want to share today, and I want to thank you so much for being here and for joining, for listening, for participating, and for enjoying this episode of the podcast, which I am going to entitle The Mirror Effect. And this will be quite an advanced teaching. I'm actually going to put this inside of the Sacred Visionary Mentorship, although we cover it much more extensively in there. And I get that it might be challenging for some people, but it's really worth understanding, especially for those of you who truly do want to elevate your consciousness. If a person does not want to elevate their consciousness, this will be too hard for them probably to grasp. And I respect and honor that. We receive what we're ready to receive, and we do it in our own divine timing, and that's okay. But if you're a person like me and you truly want to be your most magnificent best self, and if you truly want to elevate into higher levels or pure levels of consciousness, raise your vibration, be the magnificence that you came here to be the extraordinary self that you truly are, and align with source consciousness. To do source, meaning the infinite, the divine, the I am, the all that is, however you define it, and know that source, God, creator, etc., spirit, love, then you're going to want to contemplate this and embrace this. And for many of you, especially if you've been in my community for a while, you've heard it before and you know it, but you want to let this sink in. When you really get it, it's an opportunity for massive growth. And this is this concept of the mirror effect. And we call it the mirror effect, but really it's the same thing under the law of one, although somewhat different. And when you get this conceptually, if you allow it to sink in, it will start to transform your life experience. And it will allow you, by working with this concept in your experiences, it will allow you to elevate. And it goes hand in hand with a second teaching, which I'm not going to go into here, about taking responsibility for everything that shows up in your life. So the mirror effect, under the law of one, it totally makes sense that the law of one, which is universal law, which is also God's law or source law, creator's law, a law of this universe that states ultimately everything and everyone are part of one source, and ultimately all are one. Now, that doesn't mean there's not a separate individual with a personality self, whether that's in an animal or a dog, an animal, a human, or even a member of the plant kingdom, or crystalline consciousness, also known as Christ consciousness, crystalline consciousness, just a frequency bandwidth of consciousness. It doesn't mean there's individuality and contrast, because that exists here. It means that ultimately all are part of one source. And ultimately, all are not only part of that one source, but ultimately all are reflections of that one source in all of its individuation. Now, from that perspective of the law of one, we can begin to understand the mirror effect. So, by the way, scientifically, the law of one could be explained, at least in part, as in physics, as string theory. The reason it's called the theory is because they haven't been able to disprove it or prove it absolutely. But now science calls that the God particle, because they actually recognize that everyone and everything is connected through invisible strings or energy, and that there's nothing that's not connected, right? So quantum physics recognizes this, and now they've elevated string theory to what they call the God particle. So they're recognizing this. They're recognizing the same law of one and that same ultimate truth, just through different terminology. Now, so once we understand that science is validating it and spirituality is validating it, then we can understand the mirror effect. So let's just break that down a little further and why it's important to understand the mirror effect, how it will help you in your growth and your elevation and in raising your vibration, which ultimately increases the light that you can embody, which ultimately increases the joy and the happiness and the fulfillment that you can embody, which ultimately improves the quality of life that you have, which ultimately improves the magnificence that you are, which ultimately allows you to be of service and contribution in the world better, which ultimately improve every area of your life. Okay, maybe that's a stretch for some of you, but to me, this is how I see it. And this is why I'm sharing this. The mirror effect is essentially that everyone and everything is to some degree a reflection of you. Okay, no big deal. Okay, maybe you can go to that, but let's stretch it a little further. Now, what the mirror effect also says is that everything you perceive through your experience will be somehow a reflection of your perception, your perspective, but not necessarily absolute truth, because absolute truth encompasses the whole. So if you can't see or perceive the whole, meaning all things from all perspectives, then you're only seeing through your own unique perspective. And when I say seeing, perceiving, unpacking, evaluating all your perspectives, your judgment, your point of view, your perception of what reality is, your personal truth. That doesn't mean it's absolute truth, because absolute truth resides within the whole and beyond the limitation of the human perspective or the animal perspective. A great example is a mouse sees from down here, a giraffe sees from up here, and an eagle sees from way beyond, right? Just perspectives. And there's not one perspective that's absolutely right. It's their perspective. However, an eagle's going to see from the eagle view. He's going to have a grander, greater perspective. Now, if he comes out of the eagle body and becomes one with all that is, he's going to have an even grander perspective. But you can't tell a mouse that it's possible to fly because the mouse can't see it. I hope this is making sense. Your perspective is your reality and what you perceive through. But it does not mean it's the absolute truth, nor does it mean it's the only perspective or the only reality. But based on where you vibrate, because a mouse is vibrating here and an eagle is vibrating here, right? You're getting the understanding of it, right? So you're going to see through the lens that you have. And what you see and perceive will be based on who you are. That's a hard pill to swallow. It's a great pill to swallow because it means you can always be more. It's what allows you to be your magnificence, because the infinite, the divine, is infinitely magnificent, infinitely extraordinary, infinitely brilliant, and you can become more and more at one with it and still keep your body, of course, right? Because perspective and energy is not limited. However, if you refuse, if you only choose to see through the eyes of a mouse, through the limited perspective of which is usually very small limitation, then that's all you'll see. And if your perspective is something like there's a limited amount of money, there's a limited amount of kindness, there's a limited amount of joy, or especially even perhaps worse, right and wrong, that's right, that's wrong, he's wrong, she's wrong, I'm right, or I'm wrong, or even the wrongness of yourself. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not valuable enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not lovable enough. It's not possible for me. All those limitations, they're not absolute truth. But your reality will reflect that to you, because that's the perspective you're perceiving. That's the belief system you might have. And that's the energy that vibrates from you. So if you have energy that's like, you want to attack or defend your right to be right, or attack someone else, or make someone wrong, you're going to have those kinds of relationship dynamics, and they're going to show up in your life, and they're going to be problematic for you. If you have the perspective that, there's just not enough money to go around, or that life is horrible, or that life's a struggle, that energy is coming through you. That perspective is coming through you. The mirror effect is going to reflect that back at you. I want to expand on this mirror effect, but I want you to get this so that you can rise beyond it. Because again, using our example of the mouse or the hawk or the eagle or the giraffe, it's up to you to recognize that you as a conscious being can choose new and different perspectives at any time, and seek higher perspectives and seek truth, higher truth. This is one of the ways I'm so sure that I became as conscious as I did, or am still becoming, because we're on an evolutionary journey that continues. So I don't mean to put it like I'm there. I'm still working on it, but I'm always asking for God, source, creator's truth. And that's my languaging, right? But the highest, clearest, purest truth on things, absolute truth. And there's not a ton of absolutes. I can make a whole podcast on that as well. But the idea is that you're recognizing that at any point when you're challenged or struggled on something, or something feels impossible, or something feels like it's not working, or you're perceiving something to be wrong, or someone to be wrong, or something to have hurt you in some way, it requires you to get out of that small, limited perspective and rise up to a higher perspective. At least the giraffe or the eagle, or best of all, creator, source, right? And there's ways to do this, right? It's not just something we do with our brain. We have to get out of the brain, actually, in order to do it. But the idea that the mirror effect is what will keep you limited, or if you're willing to recognize, this that I'm experiencing is just a mirror right now of who I am. If I want something better, I have to become something greater. That means I have to expand my consciousness, elevate my point of view or my perspective or my truth, and I have to somehow raise my vibration so that I'm no longer this pipsqueak mouse, just as an example, of course, and so that I can start rising up above, so to speak, elevating myself. Now, I've done podcasts on elevating your frequency. Of course, that's everything I teach about and everything I help my community, my tribe with, raising our frequency, raising our vibration, clearing away the density of the small or limited perspectives so that we can expand and up level and be our magnificence. But the key is to recognize that the mirror effect will always reflect back to you who you are. So you will see in other people or in other situations or in other circumstances who you are. Until you really come into oneness, there'll be a point where you'll have such a great vision and perspective, if you keep working on this, where you'll be able to distinguish in the contrast. Because when you really cultivate your strength and certainty of who you are as an individuated being, then it becomes easier, and you're more aligned with source and source consciousness. It becomes easier to see the contrast for what it is and all the different rainbow colors of reality, all the different perspectives, to have all the multiple perspectives. It's practice that gets you there. It's a practice, and it's an ongoing requirement to do that. A requirement of inner work to move and shift beyond the limiting perspective. So the mirror effect, to sort of elaborate on that, is that you are a vibrational being. Everything's energy and everything's vibration. So everything where you're vibrating is your current experience. So let's use an example. Let's say you're physically unwell. There's some physical health issues. Or let's say there's some financial challenges. Or let's say there's some work-related challenges, not getting a job you love. Pick any challenge that you're going through in life. And that challenge that you're going through, especially if you're willing to elevate and see if that pattern has perpetuated, in other words, if you've experienced it in other ways or with other people or at other points in time, if you're willing to be honest with yourself, you'll be able to see, that pattern, that's the energy of where I'm vibrating. Great news too is by contrast, pick anything that's working great in your life. Anything that has been working great. Let's just say you have no money issues, or you've always had great health, or you have wonderful relationships, or you feel really happy and fulfilled with your work, where any area where something's really going great. And that is also a reflection of who you are and where you're vibrating. So it works both ways. There's no wrongness here. It's just understanding mirror effect. Who you are, where you are vibrating, what you perceive, and also where you emote. In other words, your emotional bandwidth is going to be a reflection of what you perceive, of what you believe, of what you and who you are. And this is why I say it's a hard pill to swallow, because if there's things in your life that you don't like, such as challenging health issues or financial issues or relationship challenges or career success challenges, for example, that means somehow, some way, where you're vibrating at, what your perspectives have been, are keeping you stuck or limited. What your energy is, that's the mirror effect. Because, by the way, this is also a universal law. We could call it law of emanation or law of radiation. They're basically the same law. Two different ways they've been explained, but what you are emanating out, what you are radiating out from your energy field, and then law of attraction will radiate back at you. So if you perceive someone or something in the world to be bad or dangerous or harmful, it will reflect back to you. If you perceive someone to be cruel or corrupt or mean to you, it will reflect back to you, because it's who you are. And I'm sorry if that's a hard pill to swallow. Simultaneously, if you perceive someone to be loving and kind and beautiful, it's an energetic expression of where you're vibrating, or at least where you're going to be vibrating soon. You're elevating into that frequency, right? You're expanding or up leveling. This is why in my class, I always say that everyone you interact with is somehow a reflection of either who you've been, who you are, or who you're becoming. And the key is, of course, you want to surround yourself with people, groups, organizations of who you want to become more like, what you want to become more like, more conscious, more aware, more positivity, more of what you desire in your life. And so if you can play in that arena, but you have to become vibrationally harmonious, otherwise you won't be compatible in that field, and you'll energetically, there'll be a mismatch, right? And then you might perceive there's a wrongness there. So you have to do the check-in with the mirror effect. It's very challenging. It's a very challenging aspect of our reality. However, if you're willing to engage, recognizing the higher truth of the mirror effect, that everything's energy, everything's consciousness, you're a form of consciousness. What is emanating from you will be reflected back to you. And if you don't like what you see in the mirror, you can change it by changing yourself from within. That's the big lesson. The change must come from within. It cannot be from pointing the finger at the mirror and blaming the external reality. You can't blame another person or blame an external authority or blame an outside source or blame an outside, virus or blame an outside, whatever we blame, an outside allergy. I get it. I'm really pushing the limit here on this, but even anything in the external world that you perceive to be the problem or the fault is a reflection of something that is not aligned within. I know it's a hard pill to swallow. It's a very advanced concept, but if you play with it in your life and you're willing to take responsibility only to the degree so that you can up level, not to blame yourself or make yourself wrong, but simply to recognize it's an opportunity for learning, for growth, for healing, for transformation, for elevation, for expansion into more of the magnificence of who you are, more of the greatness of who you are, more of who you truly came here to be, so that you can be your brilliance, so that you can be your magnificence, and rise up out of the small limitation of who you've been, so that through that rising up, that elevation, more joy, more happiness, more health, more fulfillment, more improved relationships, improved experiences in life are available to you, because from the higher, lighter perspectives, you're free from that lack or limitation of whatever it is. That's the gold. That's the gold of the mirror effect. It's not designed to make you wrong or bad. It's about helping you to more fully, wholly, and completely align with your source, or at least a greater, more expanded perspective on whatever is. I hope this is helpful. I would love to elaborate on the mirror effect just a teeny bit more, although I could probably end this there, and that would be hopefully a really fabulous teaching that you can definitely utilize. And for those of you who are in my Sacred Visionary Mentorship, you can ask more about it and we can work on this, because I know it's not easy to look at something that's challenging and say, how am I doing that in the world? Or how am I being that in the world if it's something we don't like? It's easy to say, all that brilliance, right? I have a group of meditation friends that I absolutely love and adore. And every time I give someone a compliment, they say, well, if you see it in me, it's in you. And when they give me a compliment, I'll say the same thing. Well, if you see it in me, it's in you. Because the light that shines on me is the light that you see. The light that shines in you is the light that I see. The brilliance in you is the brilliance in me. It's really true. That part's fun, right? When you can recognize the love that can be mutually exchanged, the joy, the brilliance that you can see in another is the brilliance you can see in yourself, right? It's harder when you're looking at something from the lens of judgment or wrongness or dislike, or if it's through the lens of some form of sickness or illness, that's much, much harder, or some kind of cruelty being done on an animal in the world, or a child, or nature, the harm we've done to Mother Earth, to the skies, to the waters, etc. And it's harder to say, well, I didn't do that, or I don't have anything. But usually if you search, you can find it. So for example, if you're in judgment of the wars or the fighting, you do need to look within yourself and say, where am I not at peace, or not offering inner peace or harmony, not in harmony with my brothers and sisters or with fellow human beings? Or where am I not in harmony with my own self? How do I bring more harmony? Because the solution to war is not peace. The solution to war is harmony, or at the very least, like some form of coexistent peace, right? But regardless, if you're looking at a smoker and judging a smoker, or if you're looking at chemtrails in the sky and judging that or seeing it as wrong, you might want to say, hey, where am I putting toxicity into my body? Where am I allowing myself to breathe toxicity in? Where am I overusing chemicals in my life? Or where am I not treating my physical body in a healthy way? Or where am I thinking in toxic ways or unhealthy ways? There's always a reflection somewhere. There's always a reflection. And again, that doesn't make anyone wrong. That's not about making us wrong. It's about saying, once I can own this and reconcile or resolve it in some way so that I'm at harmony and at peace with it and understand a greater perspective of it, then I can move beyond it. And then my wisdom and my learning and my elevated energy can support and assist humans and animals and the earth in a better way. All right, I hope this is helpful. I hope this makes sense. I hope you will receive it in a way that serves you and your most benevolent best as always. And I'm going to sign off for now. I think this was a great lesson about the mirror effect. And please feel free to reach out and ask more and inquire more if you feel like you want to explore this more, because it could go a lot deeper, broader, bigger, more expansive if you really work with this concept and this whole willingness to recognize the truth, the higher truth in this concept of the mirror effect. Okay, I'm going to sign off for now. As always, I am truly wishing you your most benevolent best and sending you my infinite love. Okay, farewell for now. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening today. If you loved the show and if you benefited in any way, if it helped you to up-level or expand your consciousness, if you gained any new insights or ideas, if it made you think or become more aware, or if there were some strategies or intuition that you may have benefited from in any way, would you please do me 2 easy and simple favors? First, if you would be willing to leave a review, it would mean the world to me. I'd be so grateful. And second, if you're willing to share this show with anyone else who would benefit, you can either post it on your social media or just email it to someone and share it with another person or any other people. It would be so awesome. This kind of thing is so helpful in expanding consciousness on the planet and helping others to benefit from this kind of teaching, which just simply isn't generally readily available in the mainstream. So sharing it really helps others benefit and helps our planet evolve and awaken. Plus, expressing gratitude and generosity in this way will also expand your capacity to give and receive even more. Either way, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and for participating and for sharing, and overall, just for being the magnificent, the spectacular, the brilliant, the fabulous, the wonderful you that you truly are, and for allowing yourself to be the very best version of you today and every day. All my love and gratitude to you.